If I had words to make a day for you, I'd give you a morning golden and true. I would make this day last for all time, and then fill the night deep in moonshine. Why do we still have an embargo on Cuba? 59 years later, 60-year embargo. What have we got with a 60-year embargo except for a discriminating piece? We're a bunch of capitalist extremists discriminated against a nation that, don't they have right to determine themselves? Don't nations have a right to self-determination? If they want to be a socialist, communist nation, that don't hurt me. That don't hurt me. So why would I be mad about that? Let's let them run their country how they want to run their country. And let's look at the facts. So we've had an embargo with Amerika, right? Come on, yeah, Amerika! We've tried to, smash Cuba into the ground, right? Trying to smash them in the dust, right, Amerika? With this 60-year embargo. Woo! Yeah, no, you know what the embargo has done? Not jack shit. There's no popular opposition to Castro's government. It hurt Cuba's economy, but it also hurt the people. So the economy's doing, it's third world country. They got some problems, but we're killing Cubans. So we're going to, starve a bunch of Cubans? They're going to get TB, and so we're killing Cubans. They haven't fixed their rights. The entire world is opposed to it. Every year for the last 23 years, the United Nations has voted to oppose the embargo on Cuba. Cuba's not a terrorist supporter. Most Americans are okay with ending the embargo, including Cuban Americans. So Americans, even though this is U.S. government policy, most Americans are fine. What the hell did Cuba do to anybody? They're just socialists. Right? So why did we put the embargo? Well, Castro had land reform. Castro was nationalizing oil refineries. And so, since he was taking his country back, that pissed off a lot of profiteers, a lot of pirates. And so these pirate profiteers, the mafia, if anybody, you should be happy. Castro got rid of, the mafia. They had like $100 million worth of property down there, and Castro says, get the fuck up out of Dodge. This is our country, mafia. You stupid mob bosses, gangster, wannabe sons of bitches. So the embargo in Cuba, it hasn't done its job. It hasn't worked. I'm not in favor of it. I think it's ridiculous. It's bullshit. 60 fucking years. I mean, if America is really a free country, you would think that if somebody, was a socialist, that just means they have a different, worldview about how economics should be applied. That's not dangerous. It's just a person who thinks differently, has a different opinion than others. Jesus Christ, isn't it okay if Cuba has their own opinion, Amerika? So, most people are against it. The a big reason this should, strike anybody that's ever lost a loved one to lung cancer, right? People die of lung cancer all throughout Amerika, and yet there's a vaccine for lung cancer. It was a vaccine for lung cancer that's been available to the public, to the world, for the last 9 years. Have we got a hold of it? Do we have it? Do we have a company? Are we making this stuff? How come, people die of lung cancer, and they found a vaccine to stop lung cancer, but our embargo fucks ourselves, so we don't even get any of the innovative medical shit that they're producing. So, yeah, it didn't do any of the objectives. None of the things are happening. It's doing more harm than good. Cubans, regular, ordinary, average Cubans are dying because, it was a punch to their economy, but it didn't sink their economy. And, this is terrible. This is awful. So, in the goddamn embargo, fuck this embargo. I can't believe 60 fucking years. Come on, you big, poor Cuba. Fidel Castro, is not perfect, authoritarian, killed political dissidents and shit like that, but Fidel Castro had a big gorilla on his back. Fidel Castro had a big-ass American monkey on his back. So, shit, the CIA tried to assassinate him 900 times. Could you do your job? Whatever job, you're a clerk, could you, flip burgers and take money if you had 900 assassination attempts on your life? Let Castro, if socialism's going to fail, let it fail on its own. Jesus Christ. You meddle in the affairs of another nation, and then if, the meddling fucks with the country and collapses it, then you want to say that, you know, socialism is terrible. All you're doing is gouging out people's eyes, and then you're reproaching them for being blind. You're the reason why these countries aren't succeeding. Let Castro and socialism succeed or not succeed, all on its own. Why do you got to try to, you know, do a bunch of military war games bullshit just to say what, socialism is bad? That's all you give a shit about? What about, like, murder? You know, people are killing people. Like, why don't we stand up against murder? That seems to be a lot worse than someone being a socialist. Someone who's a socialist? Fuck you, America, you fucking anti-freedom motherfuckers. Can't even give you... Oh, we're all are we all a bunch of I don't think we have any really direction. I don't think we're clearly socialist. We're not clearly capitalist. It just seems like we're shooting out in 50 million different directions. There's no overarching philosophy to this nation. There's a brand new glove that's been invented, and it's sign language. It's a glove. When you do sign language with the gloves, it speaks the words. So you get to audibly speak out the sign language that you're using. So that's good for people that are deaf who use sign language can now talk to everybody. And it was a black man, a Roy Alila, 25-year-old Roy Alila, an engineer, black man, genius. Fantastic invention. So that invention is out there. This is fantastic. We are just an amazing part of, you know, time. May our times be interesting. Our times are interesting indeed. So this video is just about how Cuba is America and America is Cuba. They are us. We are them. There's 11 million Cubans, so it's a landmass. They're a sovereign nation-state filled with a bunch of humans. Well, for shit's sake, that's America. We're a landmass, sovereign nation-state filled with a bunch of humans. So there's 11 million people in Cuba, 5.7 million people in Colorado. So the population of Cuba is double that of Colorado's. And it's a sovereign nation thanks to Fidel Castro. He had that monkey on his back for 50 fucking years, right? How could he not be an authoritarian when you got big old, you know, Daddy Warbucks, you got big old, you know, Uncle Sam Imperialist right up your asshole. You had to be authoritarian. He had to move every 2 to 3 days. Fidel Castro would have to sleep in a different place. 900 assassination attempts. Jesus Christ, how could anybody do anything? You think Elon Musk could be, you know, invented the electric car and all this shit, SpaceX? If he had 900 times people try to kill him, I mean, that's incredible. It's incredible that Fidel Castro was able to, you know, establish a socialist nation for such a long time and establish sovereignty. So already, right, we got, you know, nation states, we're land masses, they got land and mountains, they have sugar and coffee, they raise tobacco. I grew up on a tobacco farm. So they have tourism. Something they do, we don't. They export their doctors because they have such a great healthcare system that they can get oil from Venezuela in exchange for doctors or medical, you know, training and skills and shit. So something that Mike Pence, Hillary Clinton, a lot of these homophobic pieces of shit, we just legalized gay marriage 2015, and it was by de facto with the Supreme Court. So we've actually haven't outright voted on it, not the people, nor the Congress, nor the President. But, you know, the Supreme Court ruled on it. So just like 1954 Brown versus Board of Education, they was like, hey guys, this shit's wrong. So Castro's a homophobe. Right? So there's going to be discrimination in Cuba. He's a homophobic, bigoted piece of shit. So that's just like Mike Pence. So shit, how many people hang out with Mike Pence? How many people voted for Hillary Clinton? Hillary Clinton was a homophobic piece of shit. She was like, hey, marriage is between a man and a woman. She said that shit when the progressives were hoping she would, you know, be a leader on that issue. She wasn't no leader. She didn't lead on this issue. Both Hillary and Castro were the same when it came to gay folks. So there's something America can relate to. So tradition is just peer pressure from dead people. So really, you know, fucking tradition. Fidel Castro honeymooned in the United States for 3 months. He went to New York. He appreciated and loved America so much, you know. And then, you know, Bernie apparently honeymooned in Moscow with his second marriage. That's just mutual appreciation for each other's culture. I like that Fidel Castro came here and honeymooned. I'm glad that Fidel Castro did, you know, talk to Face of the Nation, talk to Nixon. When he won the Cuban Revolution, he came up and had a big old celebration tour in America. He went to Harlem and spoke Fidel Castro has shown the world that you can have a socialist nation right underneath the imperialist, capitalist, sons of bitches, and still live to, see your country become a sovereign nation that's going to exist forever and ever. So, yeah, that's good. I'm glad we have mutual appreciation for each other's culture. Cuba, the name Cuba is a Taino name meaning great place. So more than 50% of the U.S. states are named after Native American words. So Cuba, Alabama, Missouri, Montana, Alaska. Let's see, you have Kentucky, Illinois, Indiana. Indiana, literally, the land of Indians. So half of America is named after Native American words. Cuba is named after a Native American word. They had the Taino that lived there for 5,000 years. So there was a Spanish conquest and a French conquest and then an English conquest of Cuba, which is, identical to American history. Then American conquest, but we stopped and saved the Spanish, but they don't recognize that because we've been fucking with them for so many years. We actually did, Cuba a favor by repelling their Spanish invaders, but we didn't, make good on all the good feelings that we had created by actually doing a good deed. We saved the Cuban people from the Spanish oppressors. Tobacco, sugar, coffee, so we have industries here too, tourism. 8th highest human development index in North America. So they're a developing country, but they're getting up there. The 8th highest human development index in North America. So high rankings in education and healthcare. Why are everybody in Cuba knows how to read? Only 3 out of 5 Kentuckians know how to read. So 40% of Kentuckians don't even know how to read. Meanwhile, all of Cuba can read. Why? Because all levels of education, all levels of healthcare is free. They have some problems with getting supplies, but they never have a shortage of doctors. They don't have a shortage of schools and hospitals. In fact, 9/11 survivors, people that survived 9/11 actually went down with Michael Moore to go to Cuba and got some good-ass health care. So this is, they spend a large sum of or actually like 12% on education, 13% on health care, which means that the United States spends more on health care and education than Cuba does, proportionally with the budget. Well, they barely spend anything on their health care. They've been covered. They've had universal health care for as long as the embargo. Right? For 60 years they have. Maybe that's what the embargo is. Hey, America, don't look at all the great progressive developments that Cuba is doing. Don't you get land reform. Don't you nationalize oil refineries. Don't do what Castro is doing because he's a bad guy. No, because it would help the American people. So this is just the goddamn ownership class, the ruling class, the 1% that's just saying, shut the fuck up, get in line. The European Union is Cuba's largest trading partner, so even though there's an embargo, in fact, we sell a bunch of stuff. There's like 10% of all their imports are American goods. So there's an embargo, but they're buying food and medicine from us, and then they're buying a bunch of stuff from the European Union. We buy stuff from the European Union. Cuba's been a member of the WTO since 1995, the World Trade Organization. We're a part of the World Trade Organization. We trade with the EU. Cuba is a sovereign state. It was a founding member of the United Nations, founding member of ALBA, OAS, G77, non-aligned movement, and Cuba is a constitutional republic. Hey, America, can you relate to that? Cuba's a constitutional republic, but Boris Johnson's Britain, they don't have no constitution. Look what they're doing, Julian Assange. They don't have no promises of any rights and freedoms in Britain. You don't have no rights and freedoms. It's an authoritarian government. It's a royalist, old, archaic. They have no constitution. Cuba's got a constitution. They just updated it 2019, and they're a republic, whereas America is an empire. So Cuba is just saying, we're going to mind our own goddamn business, whereas America says, well, we're going to, take over the world, but we're not going to do a good job at it, and we'll be in 80 countries, and we're fighting a war on terrorism, but really we're just fighting the socialists and the communists. We're actually making the world a worse place. The communists are looking like geniuses because the capitalists keep on picking the dictator, Batista. The whole reason we got Fidel Castro is because we supported Batista for a decade. Batista's, doing all these authoritarian, terrible crimes. But did we say, hey, we're going to stop giving you money? Actually, we did. Eisenhower in 58 said we're going to stop giving Batista arms, and then that allowed Castro up through the ranks. Right? Oh, shit. Now America doesn't support Batista. Well, shit. That means nobody supports this bastard. So just like Cuba, America's a part of the United Nations. We're a part of the G77. The non-aligned movement just says not, to the two superpowers. We're not aligned with either one. Constitutional Republic. Cuba's a constitutional. The national colors of Cuba is red, white, and blue. Hey, America, can you relate to a constitutional republic who's a part of the WTO and the United Nations and who has red, white, and blue as their national colors? Can you relate to that? And in terms of their democracy, I think they do need to work on their democracy, but we need to work on our democracy. None of the presidential elections are remotely fair because we don't have ranked choice voting. Maine had it, so we could have seen what a good election actually looked like, but then they went ahead and scratched it. Now we're back onto this. They're going to fuck Bernie Sanders over with a plurality. If we had ranked choice voting, there would be no plurality. There would only be a majority victor. It would be a better... Anyways, ranked choice voting now. But look at Cuba. Everybody in Cuba votes. Everybody in Cuba has a right to vote. If you're 16 years on and up, 16 years old and on up. So that means they got more democracy. They have universal suffrage, not just for everybody that America has, universal suffrage for, but they extend it to 16. So 16, 17-year-olds, they have a bigger, greater democracy in terms of their universal suffrage. So that means they got democracy. They got a kind of democracy. They have a National Assembly of People Power. There were 605 members of their legislature, and they're all elected by majority vote. It's a unicameral legislature, so just one body of people, and they're reducing 605 to 474 in the 2023 election. So, 600 down to 500, but they're elected by majority vote in each one of their districts. So it has to be, they only get elected if they get the majority of the people of their district that vote for them. Now, the corruption is that there's only the Communist Party, and if the Communist Party goes ahead and sanctions you, a lot of these people run unopposed. Well, hell, that's just like America. So before we start, throwing stones at Cuba, maybe we should make sure the specks in our own eyes are cleaned out. So, yeah, Cuba needs to work on their democracy, just like America needs to work on our democracy. Can you relate, America? They believe in red, white, and blue. They believe in a constitutional republic. They believe everybody's got a right to vote and a right to health care and education. Well, hell, that might be a better character. That might be a better culture. They all give a damn about one another, all for one for all there. They say we are together. One of Cuba's time zones is the Eastern Standard Time. It's the same time zone that Florida, Kentucky, New York, Missouri, or Michigan. So, the whole Eastern Seaboard has the same time zone as Cuba. Cuba's our neighbor. Cuba is just 100 kilometers away from Key West. So they got a legislature, they got an executive branch, they got a Supreme Court, they have universal suffrage, they believe in red, white, and blue. Unlike Boris Johnson's UK, they're a constitutional republic, a republic who is birthed by constitution. Their census, this is self-ID, but 64% of Cubans are white, 27% are mixed, 9% are black. Well, shit, that's just like America. Cuba is just as white as America is. Just as mixed, just as black, just as white. So our demographics, when it comes to race, are the same. Well, they speak the Spanish language, we speak English, so, but both of those are Romance, Latin languages, right? They're based in, they might be Germanic, too, Spanish. I don't know much about Spanish, but 59% of the Cuban people are Christians. Hey, America, most of the Cubans are Christians. A bunch of white Christians in Cuba. Can you relate? Can you relate, America? Folk religion, 17%, 23% have no religion. So, most of them are Christians. So, a quarter of them have no religion, and then 2 out of 10 of them have some sort of mixture of Christian and African religion. So that's 2 out of 10. If you put those together, since they're kind of Christians, right? So just, 20, 60, 80%? 4 out of 5 Cubans are Christian? Can you relate, America? In Cuba, the life expectancy is 79 years. In fact, I always thought it was 76 years in America, but it said that America was higher. But that's still 79 years of age. You are born in Cuba, you're going to live to be 79. That's pretty nice. right? 76 is, so I feel like it's pretty high, is what I'm saying. So it's a 2020 estimate, and they're 59th in the world, but 79 years of age, that's a high life expectancy. You know, just as high as America. 12%. They spend. You know, we have Medicare, we have Medicaid, disabled on Social Security. So a bunch of our money goes to health care. A bunch of our money goes to the Department of Education. They only spend 12% of their budget on health care, 13% on education, and they got universal health care, universal education for everybody. We spend more money on this and give less people, percentage-wise, health care and education. So Castro had banned all private schools. That's not, you know, America. We have private school. In fact, it's all about how did we even get public schools? That's so socialist. What are we, a bunch of commies? Why do we got public education? Why do we have public roads? Jesus Christ, we got courthouses and cops, and we got fire departments, and we got, you know, running water and a bunch of internet, and then, you know, sometimes governments have golf courses and other assets, parks. There's parks out here and libraries, public schools. This is communism. We've been a communist country for a long-ass time, America. You didn't know? You didn't know? Oh, that's because you were, you know, educated by the public education. Speaking of public education, Castro forces all of his people to go through public education. So it was, you know, it's an authoritarian government. There's no freedom or democracy in their schools, right? So just like America, just like no democracy and freedom in the schools. Students don't have any say-so about their own curriculum in Cuba. From 6 to 15, school is mandatory. You don't have any choice in Cuba, just like in Kamala Harris's California. Your kid don't go to school, then your parents are going to go to jail in Kamala Harris's California. 6 to 15, that means not 5 years old. We go to school 5, 4, 3, and 15, 16, 17. So that means they get out of school a lot earlier and they start, you know, their lives instead of hijacking, you know, us at our prime. 16, 17, 18, shut up, sit down, raise your hand to go to the bathroom. Hey, you want to go to war now? Oh, you're 18, you can go to war. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know, you've been obedient, and you have, I know. So that means they have less school. Their school is mandatory. Don't have a choice in Cuba, just like you don't have a choice in California, or really America. It's mandatory. There's no Huckleberry Finns in America anymore, right? The truancy laws. So from age 6 to 15, and then all the education is free. So if you want to continue, you want to learn a trade, learn welding, learn computers, learn how to build a radio, become a doctor. Hell, everybody's doctors in Cuba. Everybody's a doctor in Cuba. But in America, is everybody a doctor? No, even the damn doctors don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. Jesus Christ. So can you relate to that, America, having compulsory public schools? Castro, you know, he did that too. He offered free public education, not just literacy, but he was teaching his population to be doctors. Jesus Christ, what a bad... Whoopi Goldberg, you're so right. This is such a bad... This is a Hitler right here. This is such a Hitler. Except for he didn't invade anybody. He didn't have concentration camps. He wasn't going around exterminating an entire race of people. He's minds his own business. He never invaded our country. Never come up to... He didn't try to assassinate our president 800, 900 times. So in terms of... I don't think that America or Americans really have much moral high ground to say anything about Fidel Castro's authoritarianism or his lack of democracy, his lack of human rights. How many people we got in jail? How many political prisoners? How many people are just in there for possession, right? So we got more people in jail than in China. So China's supposed to be bad with human rights, but we got more people in our prisons than China does? Yeah, we need to look at ourselves and improve ourselves, and we can, you know, the great thing about America is we're supposed to be a melting pot. So a literacy program, universal health care, universal education, these are just good ideas. We can learn from Fidel Castro's Cuba. We can learn from Canada. We can learn from Germany, Sweden, all these other nations out here. Let's take the best ideas there are out in the entire world, America, and then put those best ideas. Just take them, right? They got some shit that's working. Just take all doctors in Cuba. So we need universal health care, universal education, so all of us can be doctors, right? So we're just going to take that good idea from Cuba. We're going to have waste-to-electricity programs. We're just going to take that idea from Sweden. We're going to have vacation days. Just take that idea from Italy. Let's take the best ideas out of the entire world, and then let's make America the greatest goddamn nation. Quit being a bunch of capitalist extremists. Quit being a bunch of discriminating pieces of shit when it comes to socialists. Half of your countrymen. There's a lot of socialists in America. In fact, that's where the Democratic Party should be. If they're liberals, the heart of the Democratic Party would be socialism. You would think, if they actually gave a damn about working class and the unions and the like. But instead, they've been pretending to be Republicans. So, yeah, find a heartbeat, America. Get yourself a goddamn heartbeat and start caring about the whole country, the whole community. All for one, one for all. We're all in this thing. So why don't we all try, to band together and make it easier on ourselves by working together? Could we do that? I know. It's communism. Oh, it's communism. But the fact that you haven't been doing that, the fact that you haven't had universal health care means you don't give a fuck about my life. And I'm supposed to trust you? Supposed to trust you when you don't even care if I got health care? Yeah, it's a psychopathic, nation here. You got health, you died of diabetes, you're homeless, you had, a tough time in life. Well, fuck you and fuck your life. I don't want to get involved. I'm an American capitalist. I got mine. Fuck you. You're going through some, well, I don't care. I'm going to, just stay away from you. Shit. Don't want you taking me down. You know what I mean? Dog eat dog capitalism. So anyways. Daisy, 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 give me your answer due. I'm half crazy, all for the love of you. It won't be a stylish marriage. I can't afford a carriage, but you'll look sweet upon a seat, a bicycle built for two. America, you are Cuba. Cuba, you are America. We're all the same. We're all the same. We all bleed red, white, and blue.